Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining today. My name is Gina Fulton and I am the Marketing Coordinator at Estimating Edge. Today, John Lombardo from Estimating Edge and Dylan Kilpatrick from Foundation Software will be going over the integration between the two products. Before we get started, we have a couple of housekeeping items. All lines have been muted, but if you have any questions, please enter them in the questions window. We will have a rep reach out to you to answer them. After the webinar, I will send you an email that has a recorded link. The recording will also be available to watch on demand on our website. Thank you for joining. John, let's get started.
Great, thank you very much, Gina. Glad to be here with you all today. Today, we're really excited. Dylan and I is going to take you through an exciting feature. It's a brand new feature. It connects the Edge and Foundation accounting, so it creates a seamless integration between both software programs. So right now, the benefits for this particular integration, it saves time for both estimating and accounting. No more double entry of data, which is really a problem in today's world. Eliminates mistakes and confusion, and once it's set up, the process is so simple that anybody could use. Now, who are we? Well, we're the Estimating Edge, been around since 1986. 36 years in business. We've helped companies win billions and billions of dollars in projects. For example, the World Trade Center, the Cowboys Stadium, the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, the Disney properties in Orlando, Florida, and etc. The Estimating Edge is a professional grade all-in-one solution for takeoff, cost estimating, and etc. It's a very comprehensive in such a way that it's got built-in trades, like you could do drywall, you could do acoustical, metal framing, roofing, sheet metal, metal wall panels, fireproofing, etc. Multiple products within the Edge allows you to scale your business. So as you start either small, medium, or large, you can still continue to grow with this software. Over 60% of our customers have been with us for well over 10 years. Very proud of that. Dylan, can you talk about who Foundation Software is?
Thanks, John. So Foundation Software, we are the #1 provider of construction back office solutions. We were established in 1985, and we are your job cost accounting software, which will now be linking in with the Edge. On top of just Foundation, which is, again, construction specific, we offer the job cost accounting, project management specific to construction, estimating with the Edge, mobile tools for things like time card entry, and in-field entry, and then also payroll processing service as well, that again is specific to the construction industry. We serve construction as our single industry focus, over 6,000 companies and 25,000 users across the United States. We have about 400 employees here, and one of the things we kind of hang our hats on is our dedication to training and then also supporting our product, which is all performed in-house. And then we'll get into more about the Foundation side of this after John kind of takes us through what the estimating process looks like. Back to you, John.
You're welcome. A couple things I just want to cover for those that aren't familiar with API. Actually, it's an acronym that says in the world of programming, the application program interfaces with other applications like the Edge, Foundation, we have Vector, we have Edge on Site. Other products that you might be familiar with that you don't know is LinkedIn and the Weather Channel. All of those use API. In the Edge, this API allows our clients to easily import and send phase codes, and cost classes between the Foundation and Edge estimator, also with Takeoff HQ. That's exciting, and this keeps this process very simple. So where does it all start? Well, we start with the Edge estimator or Takeoff HQ. Once the estimate is completed, which I have already done in the Edge, and I'll take you to in just a few minutes, you want to check your cost codes, your cost classes. You want to check your markups, make sure everything's set up properly. You can print your reports to review the data to make sure everything's correct before you export it to your Foundation accounting side. I'll take you through that now. Excuse me, just give me 1 minute. Okay, so this is the Edge, and structurally, when you look at a project, you can set up your project based on roofing, exterior, interior, fixtures, etc., etc. These are called phases, and this will automatically push over to foundation under phases. If you don't use phases, then you don't have to worry about setting this up. I'll take you to the next screen, but before I do that, I want to make sure I check out my job so I can edit it if I need to. Now I'm exporting, bringing the job back to my computer. I bring the section screen back up on the screen. I'm going to go look at roofing first. And in here, I brought in a TPO roof system. I'm going to bring my takeoff screen up. 1 second. And in here, I've taken off a couple of different things. I've taken off my roof area. I got my wall flashing around this small roof. My coping cap is linked to the perimeter of the wall. I got some roof drains identified, and I got some equipment and things like that associated with this. I'm going to go back over to my estimate. I'm going to pop into what we call the pricing screen, because once everything's calculated quantity-wise, we want to then go into the pricing, and you'll notice you have your cost code column and cost class column, along with your estimated quantity, your order quantity, and so forth. This guarantees that your data is correct. We also have this set up in the labor screen, and all these columns can be displayed very easily. To make things even better, we have a report that you can use right from the edge. Just click on your report. You can name this particular report the Foundation Export Report, and this gives you the ability to check your different divisions, and each division can have its cost code and cost class assigned. You validate that everything's correct. If it's wrong, just back out of the report and make your proper changes right here in the estimate. Once you're done, you want to pop back over to scenarios. So in order to get this over to Foundation, you want to check the job into the cloud. And the cloud is a real place, is the best place to save your data. So now that's saving it to the cloud. I'm going to pop into my Edge portal screen, which everybody that uses the Edge has. In the Edge portal, I could select this job. There's my Foundation Edge webinar job. And if I click on it or select it, it gives me the net cost, gross, and selling price. And that all comes from the Edge recap screen with all the markups. I'll take you back to that real quick so you can see where it's all coming from. Here is my recap. All my tax classes, material, labor, subcontract, equipment, other is all set up with its proper dollar values from the pricing and labor screen. You can see here I got my roofing with my cost. There's my markup for tax, labor burden, overhead, and profit. Each of these different cost types or tax classes can be pushed over to Foundation with its appropriate markups, etc. So let's bounce back over to my portal. All I got to do is just click on the action screen. And before I go any further with this, I got to click on the budget export. So I click on the budget export. It's going to ask me, it's compiling the data. And this is the API that we spoke to you about just now. And this has given me the ability to create a new project right into Foundation. I do have to give it a name, so we'll call this the Foundation Edge Job Export. And we're going to go ahead and just click Export. Now at this particular time, I could be working on something else while this sends the data right over to accounting. And that's all there's to it. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dylan so we can talk about where it went into Foundation. There you go, Dylan.
Thank you, John. I'll go ahead and take this over. Everyone should then see our accounting software here, Foundation software, and all of the modules and different things that we offer within the accounting software. So up here at the top, we're going to have our base module system. That's our base accounting software, which will be included with accounts payable, receivable, payroll, general ledger, and job costs. So it's going to get you your basic entry points for invoicing, billing, purchase orders into AP invoices, running all your payroll certifieds, keeping your financials, and all of your job costs and WIP reports as well. And then the next line down, you're going to have all of our additional modules, equipment, fixed asset, inventory, so on and so forth. So when John sends that information over, your estimator sends that information over in the accounting software, simply just do a simple refresh of the system, and then we should be able to come into the job cost maintenance where the jobs will be created and go into the job entry screen. And then we'll have a validate third-party job area here. So if we're pulling that from the Edge, we're going to go over to the validate third-party jobs, and we're going to pull that over. If there's already, if we needed to create a job separately, you don't have to pull everything from the Edge, but we can go validate third-party job, and then we basically would come in here and we would want to find our exported job. So we can see Foundation Edge job export. I'll click on that and I validate it, and it's going to pull the information over. So what this is going to do, it's going to limit double entry, as John said, so that there is no user error when processing that over. If you find that there's a mistake, we can cancel it out, or we can go back in there again and validate that, and we're actually going to go ahead and save it this time. Okay, so once it's saved, this is where I can come in here and I can put in my customer information. I can list it against project managers, geographic areas, payroll tax groups, and assign it all of the necessary details that the accounting side would know, but the estimators wouldn't. So this is where it's going to create that link between the two. So your estimators don't have to be in the accounting software filling out accounting information when they probably don't want to be, and then also the accountants and all the back end office people probably don't want the estimators in there either, because it just creates opportunities for error. Or if there's no connection, then we would really be doing double entry. So if you have a budget, and the thing, the budget that John sent over today is fairly straightforward in its line items, but if we had one that had multiple phase codes, if we were using phases, multiple cost code or activity code breakdowns, if we had 10 or 20 line items, and each one of those line items had multiple cost classes, some for materials, some for labor estimates, so on and so forth, we could be talking about 100 line item budgets that can be sent over at the click of a button, instead of having to manually do that entry, hoping it's right, and finding out that there's errors. Then we enter invoices later on with those errors in the cost codes. Keeps everybody on the same page and entry being put in correctly. From there, I can put in my information. I can also copy the information from the budget, and I can create AIA billings. So I can actually copy the budgeted line items to an AIA, and I can create my AIA directly from the system. Let me see if that pulled over. Give me 1 second here. Just click on that again. I'm going to go ahead and validate and save it, and then we'll pull it back up and go from there. So let me go ahead and save this, and then we'll pull it back and let it validate completely. Sorry, I just missed that click of a button there. So when I come back in, I can go to my budget, and now I can go to create/edit AIA, and it'll take me to my AIA entry. It'll fill in the necessary info, but also allow you that other information for AIA entry for signatures and notaries and things of that nature. And then I can jump over here to the billing tab, and you can see that your description line item is pulled in. So if your budget oftentimes matches out with your AIA line items, this allows you to pull that information over and simply put in the necessary information to kind of move forward with the AIA. We put in your percentage completes and retainage, and then you can list that in the system and print out AIAs directly through Foundation. So you'll see here's an example of one of our AIA documents. Other things that this is going to allow you to do is on the other side with things like accounts payable entries or purchase order entries, and attaching this to material invoices and material, receiving materials. You can go into the system and you can go and enter a purchase order and accounts payable invoice, and it's going to limit what cost codes your AP person sees. So your AP person doesn't have to be an expert on all of the cost codes in the system and know that these are the specific ones that we use for these specific jobs. They can go into the system and very simply choose a vendor, choose the job that it's attached to, put in their invoice number, invoice date, put in the amount from the invoice, and then they can come down here and then list out that information again. So I can go ahead and go 115, and then you'll see that it only has phases, cost codes, and then the cost classes associated with those cost codes. So it's going to limit what cost codes they can see based off of what came from the estimate from Edge, which should limit mistaken entry and give you more accurate job cost and WIP reports. Lastly, just circling in here to the job cost reporting section, we can go into our job cost activity. We have your standard over/under billing reports in Foundation, along with fully customizable job cost activity reports as well. So if I just hit the drop down here, and let's just say I pulled in a job cost WIP report, and that job that we just validated doesn't have any data attached to it, invoices. So I'm just going to pull an example of one I know does have information. I'm going to go ahead and pull up this Midway Airport job, which is one that we pushed over previously. And I'm just going to go ahead and hit report, and you'll see that it gives you this, job cost WIP report. And this is more of a basic one that's going to show percentage complete and over/under billings. But again, that these ones can be fully customized by going back into our main menu and going down to our data genies. And you can actually pull up these reports in modify mode and customize what you want to see, how the information should show, how the report should be titled, headers, so that when you export it, it'll be customized and built out to you guys' specifications. And then along with just a P entry, the cost codes would be limited to, time cards as well. So only the proper cost codes will be selected in payroll time cards or through our mobile products. We're not going to get into as many of our products, just going to today keep it within Foundation, but this information can be pushed out to our mobile field log product, which will be for time card entry. It can be pushed out to our Project HQ app for change orders and purchase orders, and it'll all be limited based off of where that budget originated. So that's kind of a quick rundown. I'm going to go ahead and leave the rest of our session open for any questions. Go ahead and if you do have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. I'm also going to list out myself and John's email information for you guys to note down here as well, and just give you guys some time to go through with questions. I'm going to throw it over to James. He's going to be the one going through the questions. So just go ahead and get in the chat. Take your time. We'll got some time allowance for that.
Thanks, Dylan. So I do have a couple questions that I see already, and I'll read out any others that come into the chat here. So the first question that I see is if you own both softwares, that being Foundation and the Edge, is the integration free? Simple answer there is yes. There's no added cost to utilize the integration if you are a Foundation and Edge user. Another question I have here is, can it be set up so that different personnel can export the job to Foundation but not have full access to edit bids in the Edge? That's a great question, right? And Dylan touched on this a little bit about how you might not want estimators poking around too much in Foundation, and that goes vice versa as well. And so you can easily do that. You can set up roles and permissions so that whoever your accounting or certain personnel is that's going to export the job to Foundation, they can do that in our administrative web platform with totally restricted access to the Edge bids themselves, and then vice versa. So that's very easy to adjust that to your personnel. Another question that I'm seeing here is, are markups like overhead and profit included in the budget export? So John touched on this briefly. There's a screen within the Edge called the recap screen where you can input all different kinds of markups. That includes overhead, profit, markups by your certain subdivisions or trades, your different tax classes like materials and labor. Those all can be included in your budget export. Especially overhead and profit too. You can organize them by unique activity codes. It's very customizable. If you'd like to learn more about how you can customize the way the data comes over, just reach out to John or Dylan. They'll schedule a more personalized demo with you and show you how that works. And it looks like I've got two more here. One is, do phases work with this integration? So if you have evaluated Foundation before and you know what phases are, it's just another kind of organizational level, similar to cost codes and cost classes, and those do work with this integration. Your data can be organized by phases if you choose to use them. So I see another question here. If we have a drawing change that requires estimator to revise the Edge estimate, are those changes integrated automatically into the Foundation budget, or do they need to be revalidated? So that's a great question. And it kind of circles around the concept of whether this integration handles change orders. Now, I'll answer this sort of in two parts. If this revision is happening sort of in that initial budget phase still, and you're essentially just correcting the initial budget, before the, the actual production is underway, that's no problem. Simply all you have to do is just re-export another new job, right? You can delete the old one in Foundation and even keep the same name, or you can just add a 2 on the end and export a new job, and it'll have your revisions automatically, as long as you make them in the Edge, of course. Now, if you're talking about midway through the actual production on a job and you have a change order come through, that's a bit different. The Edge does handle change orders in a great fashion. However, the integration is not at this time set up to take Edge change orders and push them into your already established Foundation budget. That's something we'll have to build out in the future. So it really just depends on when in the job's life cycle this revision takes place. Hopefully that answers your question. If you'd like to kind of see how Edge change orders work and see that in a little more detail, just reach out to John or Dylan and they can answer that question for you. Really great question. And actually, I see another question here that's very similar to that, which is how do you fix a mistakenly exported budget? Right, so again, all you need to do is just export another new job, in a matter of seconds. You make your changes in the Edge. As long as you check that bid back into the cloud, you can, push that new version of your budget right into Foundation. And delete the old one in Foundation. And also, once you export a job to Foundation, you can also manually make any adjustments you'd like to there as well. It becomes a standard Foundation job at that point. And it looks like that is all the questions that I see here. I'll pass it back to the rest of my team, but it looks like all questions have been answered.
All right, if that's all the questions for today, thanks everyone for coming. Again, if you have any additional questions that you think of later, just reach out to either John or Dylan and we will get back to you accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you.